Well, I must admit I enjoyed that dinner more than I thought I would. We really must do this some other time. I haven't done this, well, ever, so I might need to get used to it. Oh, you want to come in? Oh, no, I don't think that's a great idea. Well, it's just personal problems. Huh? Oh, no, it's nothing like that. It's not serious. Oh, fuck. Okay, I know this looks weird, and it's probably because it is weird. No, this is not a toy shop, and no, I did not ram raid a toy shop to get all of this. It's just kind of my hobby. Look, I understand if you're not interested. I mean, it's a bit tricky to get, but... What? Are you sure you want to know? I mean, just to clarify, this isn't a simple thing. This might actually be a couple hours. Well, okay, then I'll explain. You might want to grab a chair. Well, this is a tabletop game. You may have heard of it. It's called Warhammer 40k, or Warhammer for short. Okay, so you recognize the name. Well, that's a start. Anyway, Warhammer is a tabletop miniature-based wargame. So, how you play is you buy these miniatures that you then assemble and paint. Yes, as you can see, I have assembled quite the collection. I've been collecting them for the past, 10 years or so. One might even say I'm a little addicted, but I'm not. I can stop at any time. Okay, rule number 1 of Warhammer: never ask how much we spend on this stuff. There is only one answer to that question, and the answer is too much. In general, we prefer to live in blissful ignorance of how much money we've wasted on this. Huh? Oh, so you're interested in learning about all this stuff? Okay then, it's time for a very, very long lecture. But feel free to ask for bathroom breaks. Alright, so let's start right at the beginning. Okay, so first there were the Old Ones, believed to be the first sentient and spacefaring species in the Milky Way, who established the first interstellar empire. These creatures had phenomenal power, immortality, and some of the most advanced psychic and technological marvels the galaxy had ever seen. Yes, psychics exist in this universe. They channel their psychic powers by drawing it from another dimension, known as the Immaterium, or the Warp, but more on that later. Anyway, they seeded many planets with life, including Earth, which in this world is called Terra. And they created a massive galaxy-wide network of portals known as the Webway, and created technology that would appear arcane to you and me, and... Huh? How long was all this? Oh, we're talking millions, maybe billions of years before humanity was even a thing. Then after them came the Necrontyr, who were born under a fearsome star that ravaged their bodies with radiation and solar winds. Their lives were short and painful, and their cities were built to accommodate the inevitable demise of their brethren. Yeah, I know, it's pretty sad. But eventually they managed to escape, and, like the Old Ones, were able to spread amongst the stars, albeit much slower, having to rely on stasis tombs to wait out the long travels and to build their empire, and in doing so encountered the Old Ones themselves. Seeing this great race with the immortality they refused to share with the Necrontyr, and with the abilities far in excess of what they were capable of, made the Necrontyr grow resentful of the Old Ones. This, along with needing the common enemy to quell and focus the various dynasties that were tearing their empire apart, drove Sarek, the Silent King, ruler of the Necrontyr Empire, into a great conflict with the Old Ones, a conflict that came to be known as the War in Heaven. But alas, the war in heaven was a war that the Necrontyr could never win. The Old Ones were just too powerful for them, and their portal technology meant that they could outmaneuver them at every turn, and romp them hard until they pushed them back to their home planet. And they were little more than an annoyance. Their resentment, coupled with their following humiliation, festered a burning hatred of not just the Old Ones, but for all other life as well. At any point, the Old Ones could have wiped them out with ease, and all seemed lost, but then the Silent King found something within their star. And what did they find, you ask? They found the Star Gods, or the Catan, beings of pure energy who were born at the same time the universe was first formed. Beings that represented the fundamental aspects of reality, who fed on the energy of stars and the last chance the Necrontyr had of victory. The first step was to give the Catan physical bodies made from necrodermis, a material known as the living metal that had the ability to regenerate from all but the most major damage, forged into the shape of the old Necrontyr gods. These bodies enabled the Catan to perceive and interact with the material world. Once this was done, the Catan came before the Silent King and offered them both the victory and the immortality that they craved. You feeling tired? Oh, well, don't worry, we're about, say halfway through. This is where it gets interesting, so don't worry. And so the upper echelons discussed the situation with all but one, Orican the astrologer, who foresaw that an alliance between the Catan and the Necrontyr would spell their doom. But the situation was dire, and they were starting a second civil war, and so they dismissed Orican's warnings and struck the bargain. And so the Catan blessed them with immortality, via herding them into enormous biofurnaces and, through a process known only to them, stripped them of their flesh, their individuality, and even their very souls. Their consciousness transferred into undying necrodermal bodies. Thus, the Necrontyr were no more, replaced by a horde of ancient Egyptian Terminators, also known as Necrons, one of the main factions in the game. In addition to this, the Catan grew mighty in strength, feasting on the life energy of the former bodies of the Necrontyr, becoming nearly unstoppable, and with the mighty force of immortal, indestructible Necrons at their beck and call, they romped all over the Old Ones, even creating their own portals known as the Dolmen Gates, that could access their webway and turning one of their greatest assets against them. Alongside this, the Catan started their harvest. Having become accustomed to the taste of life energy, harvesting great swaths of life in their insatiable hunger, eventually turning on one another until, well, there were only a few left. Seeing the tides of war turn against them, the Old Ones grew desperate, using their science skills to create powerful warriors of their own to fight in their stead. Of these, the two most prominent are the Aldari, who held powerful psychic power, and are basically space elves, and the Kroorks, which are basically space orcs, except that they're 12 meters tall and also possess psychic powers. But in a different way than the Aldari, which I will perhaps explain later, don't worry. Since both the Necrons and the Catan were purely physical beings that lacked souls, they had no defense against their new foe's psychic powers, and thus were romped once more. Crushed, they had to create a new weapon to counter this psychic threat, which came in the form of blackstone pylons, which used the mysterious material known as blackstone to dampen the warp portals of those nearby. So basically, just anti-magic. But unbeknownst to both the Old Ones and the Necrons, all of the psychic power being thrown around, as well as the raw emotion caused by all of this death and destruction, it caused the Immaterium to twist and warp into chaos. Or basically hell. And from this, the creatures from the chaos emerged into the material world. Most predominantly the enslavers, creatures who could use their powers to enslave and possess the minds of those with psychic potential and use them to create further portals into the material realm. Alongside the other denizens of the Immaterium, they whammied large portions of the galaxy. The breach from the Immaterium also destroyed a large portion of the webway and drove the Old Ones into places unknown. Whether they were driven to extinction, fled the galaxy, or just in hiding is unclear. Meanwhile, Zarek was biding his time, waiting for the Catan to be vulnerable and poised to revolt against them, and found that opportunity once the Old Ones were defeated. The Necrons created mighty weapons known as Blackstone Fortresses, powerful enough to whammy even the Star Gods. Unfortunately for the Catan, being beings as fundamental as the laws of physics couldn't be destroyed like that, and so the Necrons were forced to instead shatter them into 1,000 pieces and stored them in Pokeballs. No, they're not actual Pokeballs. They're known as Tesseract Labyrinths, but they may as well be Pokeballs. And so, after eons of fighting one enemy after another, Zarek left the galaxy to reflect on the mess he'd made of this whole thing. Meanwhile, the Necrons chose to slumber away, hidden in tomb worlds across the galaxy, to let the enslavers continue enslaving the sentient life in the galaxy until they starved. And letting their enemies crumble to dust, leaving behind a fresh galaxy with new races the Necrons could rule over. And so, they did just that for 60 million years, until the time of the present, where through the natural awakening from their sleep, or through outside forces disturbing them, they're starting to emerge, still possessing their deep-rooted hatred for all living things. Okay, so that was the first bit. And I'm sure you've heard more than enough, and oh God, you look so sleepy. Oh. Here, how about you stay over at my place tonight? You don't have to go into work tomorrow, right? Good, and maybe then we could go over some more of the lore. It's really nice to have someone to listen to me geek out over all of this. So really, just thank you so much for listening, and well, okay, I'm gonna go get your blanket and stuff, okay? Yeah, just wait right here.